The world always took on a different kind of magic, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast its warm, golden glow across the land. Our family home, nestled at the edge of a sprawling cornfield, was a place of comfort and security, where laughter echoed and the scent of home-cooked meals filled the air. But beneath the facade of familiarity, a tale of unearthly encounters and disbelief would unfold. It was one summer evening, the air thick with the promise of adventure. I stood by the window, peering out at the cornfield that stretched like an endless sea of green. The leaves rustled in the gentle breeze, casting dancing shadows on the ground. I felt a peculiar pull, as though the rustling was an invitation to explore. Without a word, I slipped out of the house, my bare feet sinking into the cool earth as I ventured into the field. The cornstalks towered above me, their rustling a symphony of secrets that whispered through the air. I wandered deeper, my heart racing with a mix of excitement and trepidation, my small frame engulfed by the towering plants. And then I saw them. Figures bathed in an otherworldly light, their forms slender and strange. My breath hitched and I stared in awe, my wide eyes locked onto their luminous presence. Their eyes, large and shimmering, seemed to hold the secrets of the universe itself. A mix of fascination and fear held me in place, my feet rooted to the ground. I watched, my breath catching with every movement, unable to tear my gaze away from the alien visitors who had descended upon our land. One of the figures extended a hand towards me, its touch as gentle as a breeze. I hesitated for a moment, my fear warring with my curiosity. But something within me urged me forward, to take that hand and bridge the gap between our worlds. Instead of feeling like we had shared an experience, I felt like I had shared what it was like to be a human on this earth. And the feeling I got back was that of hopelessness and disappointment. I did not learn anything about them. They did not want to share their secrets with me. And just as quickly as it had begun, the figures retreated, their luminous presence fading back into the cornfield. I was left standing alone amidst the rustling stalks, the world around me returning to a semblance of normalcy. The moon hung high in the sky, casting an ethereal glow that illuminated the field. I rushed back to the house, my heart racing as I burst through the door. My parents were gathered in the living room, chatting and laughing, unaware of the unearthly encounter that had taken place just beyond our home. Breathless and excited, I began to recount my story. But my parents exchanged a glance, their expressions a mixture of skepticism and concern. They reassured me that it must have been a dream, a product of my active imagination fueled by the stories I loved to read. Their words shattered the magic of the moment, leaving me feeling isolated and misunderstood. Days turned into weeks, and the memory of the alien encounter remained vivid in my mind. I found myself gazing out at the cornfield, half expecting to see their luminous figures once more. But the field remained empty, the shadows cast by the moonlight dancing in solitude. Then, one fateful night, the sky overhead seemed to crackle with an otherworldly energy. My heart raced as I stepped outside, my gaze fixed on the cornfield. The figures returned, their presence accompanied by an eerie glow that illuminated the night. My heart pounded with a mixture of fear and excitement as I watched them move among the stalks. I rushed back into the house, my words tumbling out in a desperate torrent as I tried to convey the urgency of the situation. But my parents' expressions remained unchanged, their skepticism unyielding. They urged me to return to bed, insisting that it was just a figment of my imagination. As the figures grew closer, a sense of impending doom settled over me. Their luminous eyes held a haunting intensity, and a wave of realization crashed over me. They were here for a purpose, and that purpose was far from benevolent. It was too late when my parents finally realized the truth. The figures emerged from the cornfield, their eerie glow casting long shadows on the ground. A feeling of dread washed over me as they approached, their intentions clear and chilling. The last thing I heard before everything went dark was my parents' screams, their disbelief finally shattered by the unearthly horrors that had come to claim us. As consciousness slipped away, I knew that the truth had been revealed too late. From the panoramic windows of my top-floor apartment, the city lay before me like a sprawling tapestry of lights. It was a realm of towering skyscrapers and buzzing streets, a place where the hum of life reverberated day and night. My penthouse offered a retreat from the urban chaos, a haven of luxury and solitude. The evening began like any other, the cityscape below glistening in a sea of shimmering lights. As I sipped my wine and gazed out, I noticed a peculiar glimmer in the sky. A distant speck of light, eerily distinct from the usual constellations, caught my eye. I dismissed it at first, thinking it was nothing more than a passing plane or satellite. But the glimmer grew brighter, expanding into a radiant orb that cast an otherworldly glow across the urban landscape. My heart quickened, my curiosity transforming into a gnawing sense of unease. I watched in astonishment as the orb fragmented into a flurry of smaller lights, each one weaving intricate patterns in the night sky. The lights descended, swirling like a swarm of fireflies. They moved with uncanny precision, their movements defying gravity and physics. I watched in awe as they swooped and darted through the sky, a choreography orchestrated by an intelligence beyond our comprehension. It was as if the laws of nature themselves had been rewritten by an alien force. The city's cacophony of sound began to fade, replaced by a tense silence that settled over the landscape. The streets below grew still, the usual hum of life replaced by an unsettling quiet. My heart raced as I continued to watch, my fascination battling against the growing sense of dread that gripped me. As the lights drew closer to the ground, I noticed movement in the apartment building next door. The windows flickered with frantic shadows, and muffled screams reached my ears. A chill ran down my spine as I realized that my neighbors were under attack. The lights, once objects of wonder, were now harbingers of destruction. I pressed my hands against the cold glass, my breath catching in my throat. The lights converged over the neighboring building, their glow intensifying to a blinding brilliance. And then, with a blinding flash, an explosion erupted, shattering windows and engulfing the building in flames. The shockwave reached me, rattling the windows of my apartment and leaving my ears ringing. And then a new horror unfolded before me. People on the streets below began to rise into the air, suspended by an unseen force. Their bodies floated helplessly, limbs limp as they ascended towards the lights. Panic surged within me as I watched the once vibrant lives of my community become mere puppets in the hands of an otherworldly force. My gaze shifted to the sky once more, and my heart sank as I witnessed a sight that was equally horrifying and surreal. The birds that had once filled the sky with their graceful flight were now plummeting to the ground like lifeless marionettes. As the lights continued their descent, the city below seemed to be consumed by chaos and devastation. Buildings crumbled, flames consumed the streets, and the air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke and destruction. In the midst of the horror, a realization struck me with a chilling clarity. I felt alone. As I stood by the window, the echoes of screams and chaos fading into an eerie stillness, I felt a sense of resignation. And as I turned away from the window, a new sound reached my ears, a soft, rhythmic thud that seemed to come from the hallway. My heart raced as I approached the door, my breath catching in my throat. The thuds grew louder, accompanied by an otherworldly whisper that sent a shiver down my spine. I knew that they were approaching my apartment, their intentions unknown, yet undeniably sinister. With each step they took down the hallway, the thuds seemed to reverberate through my very bones. My hands trembled as I realized that I was about to face the very beings responsible for the devastation that had befallen the city. Looking through the spy hole, the hallway seemed to grow darker, and the air thicker with a sense of impending doom. Then, with a final, ominous thud, they stood just outside my door. The air was charged with an otherworldly energy, a tension that seemed to stretch beyond the confines of space and time. I braced myself for what was to come, knowing that my fate was sealed. As the door began to creak open, I felt a surge of terror unlike anything I had ever known. The figures stood before me, their forms sleek and surreal. Their gaze fixated on me with an intensity that sent a jolt of fear through my body. I stood my ground, my heart pounding in my chest as they approached. Their presence was suffocating, their energy enveloping me like a vice. The whispers of their language seemed to penetrate my mind, and I began to float,